Okay, so next is Karen Strauss with Pavement Services. And you will not think about pavement ever again the same way you did after Karen's presentation. It is very good.
Thanks, Diane.
You're
Diane
welcome.
gets to watch all of my presentations, and I guess I'm animated. So, and it is what? You guys, this is the second day. There's only one more after me. You've had lunch, and you're all awake. So, good job. These things can be long. So, again, my name's Karen Strauss. I am ODOT's pavement design engineer. I'll talk about pavements today. I'm easy to recognize. If you guys have any questions afterwards or want to email me or call me, reach out. We're a friendly group. We want to help you guys get your projects done. And we're kind of the meat and potatoes of a lot of our projects, right? A lot of the work that we do is pavements. I used to say that we were the turkey of turkey dinner, like Thanksgiving, and then I was like, well, wait, they're going to think of us like a bunch of turkeys, and maybe that's not a great analogy, so I'm just going to go with meat and potatoes. So I'm going to talk about what we do and how we can help. So today's presentation, I'll tell you guys a little bit of background about how Pavement Services came to be, and I'll talk about the tools that we use, and I'll talk about some of the deviations from the norm that happen. I'll go over our quality control. I'll talk about our deliverables, which is probably most important to you guys. I'll talk about how we work with other disciplines at ODOT, and then I'll summarize and see who's still awake. Oh, and then we'll have Q&A if you want. But I'm obviously going to answer all the questions, so you won't have any. Okay, so where are we organizationally? Who is in our unit, and what services do we provide besides Legos, which are on my desk. If you come visit me in the materials lab, you can play with them. They were a big hit on the recent Bring Your Kid to Work Day. It was sweet. So here is the org chart, basically, that we are in. The Highway Division Administrator is Chris Strickler. Then underneath him is David Kim. So note that even though pavement is kind of a construction thing, we're actually not, we're with David Kim and not Steve Cooley. And underneath that is Joe Squire, who you just enjoyed. I'm going to change my presentation entirely just to mess with Diane. And then underneath Joe is Justin Modre, and I work for him. And Justin today is at an Everyday Counts thing up in Portland, so he couldn't be here. But I think I enjoy presenting more than he does anyway, so you're probably going to see me when it comes to pavements. So there we are. Okay, so to go a little bit more in depth, just to look at all the people that are in pavement services, you'll see Justin at the top. Chris Duman is our construction materials engineer. If any of you have been here a long time, that used to be Larry Ilg. Larry is now in quality, and Chris Duman took his place. Underneath him, he has 3 guys that work in construction materials. We also have John Coplants. He's been here a long time. He's a great guy. He knows the highway system in kind of a weird, amazingly precise way. Like he's been here 30 years, so you can ask him, you know, hey, I was driving out and I saw this weird red barn and it had a goat, and he'll be like, oh yeah, we did an overlay there in 1996, and you're like, I mean, it's really amazing. He's an incredible resource. So, and he's still here. He'll be here probably another 5 years. So meet him, talk to him. He knows the whole system. He has a couple people underneath him as well. Then there's me. In pavement design, I have some designers underneath me. We have a couple vacancies. They are closed. I know you all want to apply. And we're hoping to get those filled pretty soon. And then note that we also have a field crew. They go out and they do our pavement testing. The field crew chief is vacant and waiting to be advertised, so you know, if you like working nights in heavy traffic next to vehicles that Joe just showed you, we have a job for you. Okay, so let's start with pavement management. That's John Coplants. Here's a map from a couple years ago. Pavement management helps us think about the right treatment at the right time in the right place. So it's a way of managing all of our assets, watching them, seeing how they degrade, and seeing what projects we should do first. So a lot of the projects that you guys help manage started in pavement management, not entirely, but with John, monitoring his system, our system, and watching the condition of it. And you can see here on the map, the red represents roads that are in poor condition. Keep in mind, I think this is from 2016, and the green is good condition. So just looking at Portland, you can see some of the roads that you've probably driven over. Keep in mind that poor and very poor condition do not equate to you can't drive on it. It just means that it's gotten to the point where you probably are going to have to do something major to it to fix it. So pavements have a life cycle, right? So if you look on the left side of your screen where the arrows are not nearly dark enough, you'll see that the life cycle basically goes from brand new to eventually reconstructing. And there's a bunch of stuff that we try to do in between because reconstruction is expensive and it triggers a whole bunch of other stuff from other people that you've met over the past 2 days. So it's, again, right time, right place, because we're not going to reconstruct a road that's in the middle of absolutely nowhere that gets 3 cows a day. But we are going to reconstruct downtown Portland if it, someplace. I'm actually working on the design for Lombard right now, a piece of Lombard. So it depends on traffic, it depends on location. You'll see all kinds of different fatigue that we get. You'll see cracking, you'll see deformation, you'll see wear. The picture for wear is actually our rut bar measurement. It's basically a level with a little cylinder that drops into the rut, and you run out into traffic very carefully. Drop it, pick it back up, and then how far the rod has dropped measures your rut. It's highly scientific. And then moisture damage is something we fight here, especially in Western Oregon. So how do we assess the condition? There's a couple different ways. One of the most basic ways is windshield surveys. So all of us in pavement services get a turn every 2 years. We go out in teams, and one drives and one watches the road. Well, both of us are watching the road. One's watching the pavement. And we'll actually sit and rate on a scale of 0 to 100 how good the road condition is. And we're all trained beforehand by John, but it is still somewhat subjective, right? We're humans, we're tired. It depends which way the sunlight's shining. It depends if it's rained. And we get that basic condition for kind of the more secondary roads. We hire a van service, which you'll see contractor images and ratings. The van's super cool. They're getting more technological every year. They have lasers that detect our rutting and our roughness, and they now have image analysis software that can detect the cracks and tell you how many there are and how wide they are and how deep they are. It's getting better all the time. It still gets tricked a little bit by striping and cracking, but every year they have a road profiler user group conference, so like all these people who are super nerdy bring their vans down and they park them in a parking lot and they all talk about how cool their vans are. And it's like an 80s movie crossover between like nerds and cool people in a parking lot with cars. It's really funny. It's a neat conference and they talk about all this technology, but every year there's something new and something amazing. So we hire that out. Some states buy their own van. We actually hire it out. And then we have the rut depth is measured by the van. It's also measured in the field by us. And we have a skid truck, which is the trailer at the way bottom under smoothness and rut depth. That's a little trailer that we tow, and you test the skidding. There's a water tank, and it spits out the water underneath the tire, and we lock the tire wheel and skid it, and we'll measure how good the friction is. So how do we assign the funding? This is a slide from John Coplant's. If you're curious, you should ask him more. It's just basically talking about, okay, when we have the money, which is scarce, how do we decide what to do first? So you'll see the level of importance is interstate first, then OTIA or OTIA, and then the NHS routes, and then the regional routes. So basically, it's pretty much traffic volume, not always. And then we also look at cost benefit, right? The lanes out in Region 5 with very little traffic will benefit more from a chip seal than a very heavy trafficked road. And then something like the Rose Quarter probably needs to be reconstructed. Whoever's on the Rose Quarter project, sorry. But I've let you know that already. There's no controversy there. So pavement design, now that we know where it's needed, which John helps me with, what is needed? So we have to go out and we do field testing. So this is why I'm telling all of you, witness, I'm telling all of you, reach out to me early. before you go, hey, it's DAP, where's my pavement design? And I go, what? So we have to send out the field crew first, and they will actually go out and get data in the field on that pavement. Then, while they're doing that, we're going to review the construction history to figure out what we think is already there. We'll look at previous designs that we've done in the area. We'll go out to the field. We'll look at the video van. If you guys don't know, you can drive the road on video. It's on our website. You can ask me or some of the other people here. We'll look at the field data when it comes back in, and then we do lots of calculations. I almost brought my binder for I-205, but I haven't been weightlifting. And then we figure out what is best bang for the buck. So field testing, this is a picture I took of the field crew when we were out on I-205, and he caught me right as I was taking the picture. So there you can see the core truck and the probe truck and the FWD trailer. It's further in the distance. So we go out and we get cores. They're usually 4 inches. So you'll see the drill come out the back of the truck. They go down and they core all the way to the aggregate, and they take the core out and they bring it to us, and we look at how cracked it is and what it looks like, and if the layers match what we think the construction history had. We can also take probes of the soil. It's a smaller tube. After you take the core out, you go down and you take a sample of the soil. If you ever want to make an engineer angry, call it dirt. I found that one out. And DCP is basically a way of testing the strength of the soil by dropping a weight on it several times. We'll also deflect the pavement. The FWD is a trailer that we haul, and it drops an extremely heavy weight, and it has sensors that go a certain distance from the weight. So as you drop it, it'll measure how much you deflected the pavement, and it'll tell you how strong it is, in layman's terms. My boss would be like, well, that's not exactly. In layman's terms. And then we'll do skid testing, friction. We'll do that only if it's a certain type of road and you're looking to repair the friction. That's not something we typically do unless you're seeing an issue. And we'll measure the ruts if they're there, and again, if rutting is a known issue. So construction history, I can't read that, so I'm going to go over here. I think that's the building of I-205, East Portland Freeway, 1968. It's kind of neat. So we look at as-built drawings. ODOT has actually archived them, and they're easy to find, the V files. That is such a blessing. I used to work for the Idaho DOT. It's amazing that all of that stuff, you can just pull it up. It's fabulous. We'll look at designs we've done on the same section or nearby, see what the last person did. We talk to maintenance. Maintenance people are out there all the time. They see the issues, they see the cows, they see the goats, they see the traffic, and they'll see what blows up continuously and what they're always patching. So they're a great source of data. We look at the pavement management data. We can look at the trends of how it's been doing, what the condition is, if it's really going down, if it's staying pretty steady. And then institutional knowledge, right? We all go and we talk to John and some of the other people who have been here a while, and we say, what have you seen? Oh yeah, I remember that. We built it. And often, sometimes that memory is different than what the plans have. So talking to the people who have been here a long time, very valuable. And then we'll take a field trip out and we'll actually look at it, because one of the mistakes I think we make, those of us who have grown up with technology, is just thinking that looking at it on video is good enough. And I'm guilty of that, especially when I'm in a hurry. But nothing beats going out in the field and actually seeing it. And that's an important thing to do for your projects, if you can. Okay, so this is an example of a bad core. So they pulled this up, and what you've got there is approximately 2 inches of asphalt, and then underneath that, crumbled concrete. I don't know what project that's for. But we'll look at the cores, and we'll look at what condition is that asphalt in, what condition is that concrete in. Do we have to take it out? Do we have to repair it? Is there an easy way to repair it? How much of the asphalt can we take out? And then we do a tremendous amount of calculations, and I'll talk about this a little bit more when I get to our deliverables. There's 2 different ways to do pavement design. If I wanted to put you all to sleep, I would describe them in detail. There's an AASHTO 1993 pavement design that's empirical, so it's based on lab results. So there was a ton of lab testing done, and it's been revised over the years, and it's still a very reliable way to do pavement design. In recent years, we've come up with the Mechanistic Empirical Pavement Design Guide, or the MEPDG, which is a new fancy computer software that does it in a different way. And it's got all kinds of finite element analysis, and it's neat. But we're still refining that. So right now, we use AASHTO 93 for flexible asphalt designs, and we'll use the MEPDG for concrete designs. And you don't need to worry about any of that. We'll take care of it. Okay, so calculations, we look at how strong is the ground that we're putting it on. And this is why you'll see discussions about subgrade stabilization. So if the pavement's being built during the wet season, the ground's squishy, and that affects all of our calculations. And if it's built in the dry season, which is what we want in the summer, then it's stronger and you're going to have a better road. We don't control when construction happens. So usually in our pavement designs, we'll have a caveat that says if it's wet, you have to use subgrade stabilization. If it's dry, you're probably good. And there's field testing for that, and it's in our standard specs. But we'll look at how strong is your foundation, right? You don't start building a house until you know what you're building it on, or you get a leaning Tower of Pisa. So what needs to be removed? Can we leave it there? Do we just put something on top? You'll see that in urban areas, we can't really overlay the pavement because it screws up all your sidewalks, ramps, elevations, drainage. So we'll often have to remove and replace, whereas if you're in the middle of nowhere, you can probably add a couple inches of asphalt. How much traffic does it need to handle? This is very important. This is the basis of our calculations, right? How many trucks are going over it? Asphalt or concrete? There aren't, well, I think there might be people in the audience who represent those entities, so I will say that both are wonderful, and I like them both equally. Constructability issues. Is there any issue with, for example, we were looking at the Rose Quarter, and if you drive I-5 through downtown Portland, you'll notice it necks down and comes back open right in the Rose Quarter. There's only 2 lanes going north, I believe, and it's not really easy to widen because there's a whole spaghetti mess of ramps that are going in and out. So that's a huge constructability issue right there if you want to, let's say, close it down and let concrete cure for 28 days. You know, Portland will kill me, even though I think concrete would be great. So we looked at something like precast panels, right? Can we let the panels cure and then build them like Legos there? So we're looking at all kinds of options based on constructability. And of course, how deep should the layers be? That's all in our calculations too. Do you need 8 inches of asphalt, 6, 4? We'll have that for you. And so construction materials, which again is Chris Duman, are we getting what we're paying for? We have that huge spec book that tells the contractors exactly what they can do and what they can't do. We test the material ad nauseum to make sure that what they said they're going to put down is actually what they are putting down. They send mixes to us that we check and make sure they'll send basically the ingredients to a recipe. We'll make the recipe and we'll tell them whether or not it's good. We have construction inspectors out there that make sure that they're actually constructing it the way they're supposed to be. And we make sure that they use the right equipment. I get some amazing phone calls about shortcuts that people have used in the field that some guy taught some guy who taught some guy who taught some guy's roommate how to build concrete. And they're just like, well, you'll just use this. It'll be great. And I'm like, that's why we have the spec book. So what tools do we use? There's a pavement design guide, which used to not be updated since 2011, but we republished it this year, thanks to me. So there's a new pavement design guide. Fantastic reading if you're trying to fall asleep late at night and the whiskey's just not hitting you. It is interesting, though. It'll tell you how we're actually designing the pavement. There's policy DES-01, which is funding to the Fix-It program, and that is Justin Modre's baby. Basically, that is the only part of the funding, I believe, that Pavement Services is in charge of. There's the Highway Design Manual. That obviously relates to what we do. I don't have to write any of it, thank goodness. I just have to check the pavement pieces. And then, of course, there's pavement design software and Excel spreadsheets and MEPDG and all the nerdy stuff that we do in our offices. Okay, so deviations. Exception examples. So sometimes we have in our guide, we have a map of Oregon, and we'll tell you what binder grade you should use based on where you are. And quite often, we'll order a grade, and then per the guide, it'll be like, just from this piece to this piece, you should use this binder grade. But then from over here to over here, the traffic is a little bit less, so you should use this binder grade. And the contractor's like, hello, can I just have one truck with one binder grade? And we'll say, usually yes, if it's reasonable and it'll work. So same with different lift schemes. We usually want 3 inches of asphalt over the first lift of aggregate. You're writing this down, right? And we don't like lifts bigger than 3 inches. Sometimes if you only have 4 inches to lay down and it's in a certain area and it works, we'll say, yeah, you can just do one lift. And then spec changes, we get those requests all the time, and we will carefully go through them with the experts and decide whether or not they should be allowed. I sign off as a designated technical resource for certain specifications. So most of the time, if you need a spec change, you're going to call me if it's pavements, and then usually I will talk to everybody in the office and then pretend like I made the decision myself and get back to you. So quality control, design, how do we make sure that our designs are good? This is the important stuff that you'll care about. I mean, you're going to care about all of this, but the stuff that matters to you. So in your projects, the first thing you will get from us is a draft design. This is us just running some calculations, getting an idea of where we think it'll be, not having an idea of all the little nuances like the pullouts and the driveways and the ADA ramps, but just going, yeah, in general, you're probably going to do a 2-inch mill and fill. In general, you're probably going to have to take off 5 inches and put back 6. You'll see a draft design. It'll be preliminary, it's not stamped. It's just something so your roadway engineers and the rest of your team has an idea of what we're going to do out there. Then it goes through peer review in my office. So us as peers, I'll give one of my projects to somebody else. They'll peer review it, check my calculations, make sure everything is good. I'll revise it. Then I review it, unless it's my work, which is always perfect. I'll review the work, and it gets revised again, and then there's a final design. So just in case you're actually wondering, Justin reviews my designs. That's part of the QC. Then you'll get a final design, which is signed and stamped. So there's a couple iterations. In fact, sometimes if we're really slammed, you'll just get an email from us, probably just saying, yeah, it'll be a 2-inch mill and fill. I'll get you a memo next week. And so keep in mind what product you're asking for. Usually we'll give you the final design. We try to aim for a month before DAP, but everything is a little squishy. We want to work with you. We'll try to answer all the questions we can. And just ask us, because a lot of the time we'll go to the PDT, but you know, we're in the materials lab. We don't hear the scuttlebutt. And so we depend on you guys to come to us and say, hey, are you aware that there's bus pads on Lombard? Nope. I don't remember seeing them when I drove out there. Oh, well, we need a bus pad design. Oh, okay, I can do that. We need a bus pad design 2 weeks ago. I have a problem. So try to keep us aware and abreast of what you need, and we will absolutely work with you because we're all in this together. Quality control for construction materials. They'll check the construction plans pre-bid. They do a ton of testing and inspection before the stuff actually goes down. They test mix designs. They do test strips, which is where the contractor will actually lay down the material, do the density testing, and prove that it works before we let them do it on the main line. We'll go out to the site. We'll make sure it's good. Deliverables, like I said, you'll get a preliminary or working draft. You'll get a draft final, and then you go to final stamped. And like I said, usually it's about a month before DAP. We'll work with you. We're all under the same pressure and deadlines. Just let us know what you need early, because again, field crew has to go out usually and get information, so that can delay us. Okay, so who do we work with? We're a part of the PDT. We're often not there in person, right? Because some of us are lazy and don't want to walk over to some other building in Salem or drive. But we'll call in all the time, and we're the bread and butter. We're the turkeys. We're the turkeys of the design. So ask us. Pavement gets affected by everything that's going on, even if you don't think so. And we can accommodate all kinds of stuff that goes on. In fact, keep in mind that, I don't want to say that, oh man, if I said we're flexible, then that's a pavement pun. Keep in mind that we'll work with you as much as we can. We work with roadway design, geotechnical, bridge, stormwater. For example, if we say that a road needs to be redone in a certain area and the stormwater person puts up a flag and says, oh my gosh, if we do that, I have to put in a detention pond and we don't have the right of way for that, and we start this entire dominoes falling, call us. We don't know about that. We were just doing what's right for the pavement. We can always take a second look at it and help you guys out. We're malleable, we're flexible. So we do pavement design statewide, so we're usually slammed. That doesn't mean we're not working on your project, just asking you politely. Keep in mind, there's a bunch of stuff going through my office at the same time. So we're doing our best. Okay, we serve the entire state. Communicate early and often. Remember, we have to wait on field data. And our job is to help you. Who stayed awake? Huh? Yeah. Now you got to deal with Lucy after me. So here's everybody to call and email if you need our information. I'm better about email than voicemail, but I'll answer you however you come calling. Carrier pigeon, also an option. I have Windows. If you guys have any questions, just reach out. We're a friendly group. We want to help you get your stuff done. Thanks.
Okay, are there any questions for Karen? Did she take care of everything?
Yeah.
See, everything you always wanted to know about pavement, but we're afraid to ask. So we have one gentleman over here who's not afraid to ask.
It's not a real question. Does the Lego calculator work?
So it's not one that I don't own it, but I saw it online, and it does. It's a mechanical calculator that actually works. It's there's probably a YouTube video. It's really neat. And there's a mechanical calculator in the display case of all of the test equipment in the materials lab, and you can take it out and play with it, and it works.
Any other questions?
Uh-oh. I didn't change my slide.
The square root of 3 is
What's my pay grade?
no, square root of 3. So, not enough. Yesterday, Steve mentioned, and a few others mentioned, advanced investigation. This is one area where we're looking at advanced investigation. I don't know that you necessarily covered that, but I can
Please
help
go
real
ahead.
quick. So often I've been called and said, hey, what the heck's the pavements unit doing? They prescribed or designed a 2-inch thick pavement. We get out there, we have 4 inches of crud rather than pavement, and now my cost just went right through the roof. And it's because of when we do scoping, we don't go out and core and do all the big investigation that Karen's described. With advanced investigation, we're trying to get out there and do the cores at the time of scoping or in that time frame, so by the time that it's scoped, we can say, hey, you have a 4-inch grinding inlay as opposed to a 2-inch. So that's something to bear in mind. So when your area manager goes sideways on you and blames pavements, it's like, nope, the scoping missed it, and we can help out with that. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe. Thanks.
Okay.
Do you also do cores on bridge decks, or is that a different group?
No, we do
It's
the
you.
cores on the bridge decks, absolutely.
Thank you.
When you need them, let us know. So usually part of if there's bridges in the project section, we will core the bridge approaches, and we'll get one core on the bridge deck. And we absolutely will deliver that to bridge if they want it. We've been keeping them and marking them, and we can tell you whether or not there's a membrane, and all you have to do is ask. And we as a group are trying to get better about saying, hey, bridge, guess what we got? Instead of just going, well, if they want it, they can call. So when we do a project and we core, we're going to try and reach out and notify. And if you guys ahead of time are on the project and are like, you know what, can we get a core on this side and this side because they were different, just let us know. We can absolutely do that.
Can I maybe add to that question? Do you do deck coring for chloride testing on a bridge deck?
For what testing?
Chloride testing.
Oh, we take the cores and then we deliver them. I don't think we do the chloride testing. Joe, do you know?
We can do chloride testing, but that's a special request that Scott Nelson, who will give our lab folks and get that figured out.
Okay.
So a bit of a trick question. I think we need to ask what is the purpose of the coring, if it's simply for like AC depths.
It is
And
when we go
membrane,
out
that's
and we
great.
test. It is for the AC depth because we'll often get asked, should we remove the AC or does it have to stay? What condition is it in? So we get asked, is there a membrane? But as far as chloride,
So, yeah, so the other part of this too, though, is it's probably good to check in with that regional bridge lead engineer, like George Bornstead in Region 5, and they can help determine just how much coring has to be done, what the purpose is and such.
absolutely.
Okay. Any more challenge questions?
I'll just point them
Yeah.
all to Joe. You can't intimidate me. Hey, Joe.
Could you tell us how much damage studded tires do?
Oh, boy. Yeah, you're talking to the right person. I hate studded tires. Stop it, all of you. So they do quite a lot of damage, and the damage that they do is rutting. And the thing that bothers me, I've never driven with them, right? So I speak about them without knowing the safety benefits of them. I do see the pavement damage they do, particularly to concrete pavements. They're pretty much the biggest reason concrete pavements rut. And the difficulty about that is you can't patch concrete. So once it ruts, we have to go out there with a diamond grinder and grind the rest of the concrete to match the bottom of the rut. And we can only do that a couple times before we hit rebar. So it's costing us as Oregonians the concrete costs because you're breaking down the concrete and then we have to asphalt overlay the top of it. Like I-205 right now looks like it's asphalt, but it's 8 inches of concrete underneath that, and the asphalt wearing course is so as it ruts, we can take it off and put it back. Studded tire wear on asphalt, fine. We can remove and replace, but yeah, it does a lot of damage. It does. But it's not fair to just unilaterally say stop it because I understand how much safety is involved. So, but yeah, I don't like it. It does a lot of damage.
We have time for one more question. Over here.
Do we have an inventory?
And you'll have to wait for the microphone.
Sorry, they're recording you.
Do we have an inventory of the cores, like per mile point and highway, and then the extraction date? Is it open to us, or do we have to ask?
We're making that database right now.
Okay.
We have a temp worker making a huge database of all the cores we've ever had. Right now, ask us, and we'll get that for you. Okay. We hope to eventually attach it to GIS as a layer, so you can just call it up. But yeah, we can get you guys construction history, pavement condition, cores, previous designs. Absolutely, just ask.
Great. Okay, Karen, thank you so much.
My pleasure.